Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in another of our APPI Focus on ARV Learn by Doing. And as always, we have a particular topic of interest, and today is Positive Feedback Protocol, PFB. So let's just jump in. Here's the outline for today. We will begin with about a half an hour discussion of this positive feedback protocol. And then we will do a tutorial for newbies and oldbies, including the PFB modifications, which I hope many of you will use. We'll be talking a little bit more about that. And then we'll spend an hour and a half or so with prediction analysis and feedback. And today, instead of doing roulette, which we've done in the last few, we'll use craps instead. So that turns out to have even better odds for the player when they play the pass line or the no pass line. Now, I'd like to begin with this potential target, and matching transcript. And if you look, you can see the person Marshall here wrote the coordinate, did here, I think, something which is between an ideogram and a pictogram, but picked up immediately icy, cold, white, watery skis, poles. Looks like pretty good matches. Went on to get steep, slope, scenic, cup of coffee. He went off to the local resting place there to get a cup of coffee, I guess. And then sky, sun, bright. Shape here looks certainly like a mountain. Valley, water, cold, snowy. Heights, mountain. And then here's his summary. There is a cold place, scenic in mountains with view of over valley and water. This place is relaxing, brisk, and refreshing. I think you'd agree that was a very good match. In fact, this was self-analyzed, and he gave himself a 6.5, which is difficult to argue with. You might certainly give something like that. And it was a miss. So this is one of your classic examples of what we call displacement, which is probably the single most significant impediment to most people getting and good viewers. This was a good viewer, but of the wrong target. Now, he wrote, and I thought he handled this quite well. He was relatively new at this point. This is very strange in capital letters, as this RV session with the converse answer is hard to imagine being correct. I had nearly a 7 out of 7. We use the TARG scale, which goes from 0 to 7 with this for the opposite answer. It was a miss. For the other photo site, he was down at 0.7. So he had really minimal matches to the other possible target. He got a match here, which was great. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the emotions involved here. He did this and handled it quite well in terms of what he wrote. I don't know what his emotions were when he first experienced it, but here, of course, you could see a bit upset. Some people actually will take the point of view that, oh, well, at least I'm psychic, but I think that's a loser because it isn't doing anything to go for the actual target. Now, these displacements have emotions usually, especially if they occur several times, and you're going to become a precog pro, where this is hurting your hit rate. And there might be something like this, and sometimes real anger. There is an inner emotional reaction, down to some deep levels, usually negative. Now, I like the light bulb here because I'm going to be talking about Thomas Edison in a moment. But I want us to be very clear what we're going to be discussing here. We want to take on displacement. You just saw a typical example of that, and that's the problem we want to solve. Now, displacement's been around forever, for as long as I've been doing this, which must be something like 20 years now, 15, 20 years. And here's a little cartoon that says, yeah, I've tried that before and it doesn't work. Now here it happens to be in the weight area, but in ARV, we've tried so many things, independent analysis versus self-analysis. We've even had different people analyze against the two possible targets. We've just tried so many things. We've tried unitary ARV. And what seems absolutely clear to me is the kind of protocol changes which don't focus on the inner being. It's an inside job. Just don't work. And if you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got, right? If you're doing the same thing and nothing's changing and you want to get better. Now, I'll tell you, some people do not. Some people are very happy just to do this, to get into their own subconscious, and they'll look at whatever they get, and their objective is not to get high hit rates like we encourage precog pros to do. They're just happy to do this and enjoy and learn about their own subconscious, and that's fine. The viewer is in charge. But if you do indeed want to get better and better and have your hit rates go up, all the things we've tried go along with what Thomas Edison said here when he was doing the light bulb thing. I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. He also said, and this is what we're doing, and I hope you'll do in your inner work, never estimate the power of persistence. Now, this is a typical hit rate chart, which shows the red curve is cumulative, hits divided by hit plus misses, and here's session number. So the red is cumulative from the beginning. The blue is the 10-day one, which is the one I want to focus on now. The green is a 25. But if you look, you'll see even here, the cumulative was up to 80% and then went down. But the 10-day was up to 70%, goes down. 70% two more times, goes down. Got up to 80%. The person must have been feeling, really good here. Maybe too good, who knows? But from there, went way down. And this was indeed due to displacements, rather upsetting, as opposed to staying up in the 75, 80% area or even higher. So this is the effect displacement has on hit rates. Okay, so with that background, what is this positive feedback protocol that I'm suggesting here? And it really is quite simple. I put it in a way, yeah, there you go. I just like you to see it this way to emphasize it. The idea is you only do feedback if you have a hit, period. You only do feedback if you have a hit. Up to now, we did feedback whether it was a hit or what I now want to call non-hits. There's more than one way to get a non-hit, as you know. But, okay, I'll even say it out loud. You could get a pass or you can get a miss. And the misses can be of various types. You can have low CRs, it could have been misjudged, a lot of reasons, or it could have been a displacement. All of those are in the category of non-hit. Now, all of this is really a simple modification to the current feedback that we do now, and I'm going to be showing you that. And in fact, we're going to be doing this later when we do the dice, the craps prediction. Notice, no matter what, this is an emotional improvement. You will not ever have to deal with displacement if you do this with an independent analyst. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. Will the hit rate data improve? I believe so, but the fact is time will tell. And it may very well be different for different people. But you will not have to deal with displacement anymore. This positive feedback, only do feedback if you have a hit. A non-hit could be a pass. In fact, assume it is a pass. That's the mindset you should have when you find out it's a non-hit. Hey, you can smile, you can be happy, you don't have to take on the D word. The viewer does the usual RV session to start off the ARV prediction with the tasking. Describe and sketch a 6-digit coordinate of your feedback target. Now, if you're doing independent analysis, the analyst needs to not get excited, concerned, emotional about any high CRs. They're irrelevant to the analyst. She or he ends off just picking up, down, pass via the CRs, but we just don't want a lot of attention paid when there's particularly high ones. Too often we have seen that these high emotions light up the wrong target. This may very well be one of the causes of the D word. And so the analyst just does not get excited, concerned, emotional. They just do their analytical job with matching the transcript to both of the possible targets. That's what the analyst does. Now, the analyst only tells the viewer to do feedback, guess what? If the viewer has a hit. If the viewer has a non-hit, the analyst says, hey, have a nice day, but you don't do any feedback. I don't want you to look at the your feedback target. Just go on and enjoy the rest of your day. Now, the analyst knows this based on comparing the personal prediction that the analyst puts in, and that's true if it's a self-analyst, to the actual outcome emails, which show. So for financials, know whether the viewer predicted an up or down after the analyst does that, and then they'll know whether it's up or down in the outcome email. Now, if doing self-analysis, when you're wearing your analyst hat, behave as much as possible as an independent analyst. Now, we know we have a lot of people out there doing self-analysis because they don't have a spouse, friend nearby to work with. And this does make it a little harder because if you're doing self-analysis, you do know what those CRs are, even though you don't get emotionally involved as much as possible, but you almost have too much information. And if you can't get yourself to really stay neutral during the analysis, work real hard to find an independent analyst. We'll do what we can to help you. But when doing self-analysis, you just simply act as if it's independent, and you too will know whether or not you have a non-hit, in which case you don't do feedback. You just ignore the feedback email. If you do have a hit, of course, you go ahead and you do your feedback. But notice with this PFB approach, positive feedback approach, since you only do feedback when it's a hit, you never have to see a displacement again. Exclamation mark, happy face. So you never have to deal with that. And this is a wonderful quote, I think, from Barbara Corcoran. The difference between successful people and others is how long they spend time feeling sorry for themselves. And after you get a few of these displacements, I know a lot of us, including me, just have all of these negative inclined emotions, and feeling sorry for yourself is not a bad summary for that. Positive thoughts create more positive thoughts. That makes sense. And so just getting rid of the negative, and when you get a non-hit, you may even have a bit of a negative, but treat it as a pass, and you'll just simply move on to enjoy the rest of your day and have some positive stuff. Hey, you've seen this one. Don't worry, be happy. In every life, we have some trouble. When you worry, you make it double. So the whole idea is that this whole approach is set up and designed to minimize your worry. Now, I do want to bring in this idea right here, which, on a t-shirt, it says, "Thank God for making my reality a reality." I mean, you are playing a magnificent, cutting-edge consciousness endeavor here. You're using your consciousness to predict the future, precognition. That just doesn't fit in with the idea that most people, certainly scientists in particular, have, and that you can do this in a purposeful way. But the idea God turns off some people. But the fact is, this is something, a higher self, a deeper self. Hey, some people seem to think they're getting information. They are, and they're self getting information from angels, from guides. I've even now added advanced friendly ETs. We know Uri Geller and others started doing things after they had interactions with ETs. The key is something much grander than the normal, your normal ego intellectual you. So, and this is connected very much so to the moment you accept responsibility for everything in your life. In the moment, when you accept full responsibility, you gain the power to change anything in your life. Whatever happens, take responsibility. That's Tony Robbins. Now, this idea of the higher self, God, how do you take total responsibility? You're not God. But what brings all this together, and words begin to fail here, but I think you'll get the idea. The power and the wisdom of God, higher self, whatever you're connected to, your subconscious, which is much bigger than your normal ego self, literally reside on the inside of us. It's this deep inside that's connected to everything. And that gets to this model of, we live in this physical world, but the source of everything, the source of the consciousness that you're experiencing right now, actually comes in a non-physical, I'll call it spiritual, reality. And it bubbles up through a 0-point energy field, the vacuum field that's everywhere, every time, into the physical. But the source is down here. Some people say that even we, as complex as we are, but we are conscious beings, are like avatars, like icons who are responding to what's going on in the non-physical. But that's us down here. We have a non-physical life down here that feeds into the physical. And that non-physical life lives on after our physical life passes. But it's down there now, interacting with us in the physical world as we make our free choices, etc. We're living our physical life up here, but the source of the consciousness is down here. And this is where God, the higher powers, exist and interact with us, which then comes up here. So that's the model, which I think is what's going on. And working with that reality and minimizing any negativity will just make us better and better precogs. Now, I want to connect something which doesn't seem very obvious at first, but it is. And I'm going to try to make the connection here so you'll understand it. Basketball free throw hit rates are very similar on the average to ARV hit rates. And I want to talk about how you can improve both of those. Since the mid-1960s, college men players have had an average of like 69% and never topped 70%. Okay, so those are similar numbers to what our people are getting. In the NBA, roughly 75% for more than 50 years. You know, you'd think over time and maybe that percentage would go up. It stayed relatively constant. I have a question for you. What do you think or feel is the probability of a person making 25 free throws in a row? I use the number 25 because that's our basis of what we ask our precogs to do, and I've yet to see any of them do 25, but what about 25 basketball free throws in a row? How about 100? How about 1,000? Anybody feel the probability of that? Is there anybody out there that can do 1,000 without missing? Well, I want to show you something. I think the answer you would probably all give is no. To do 1,000 in a row would be just impossible. Well, here, I want to show you now. Video.
We apologize in advance for the repetitive and predictable nature of the scenes that follow. But our
Are you hearing this okay?
If you're not, let me know. Routine to suit the likes of us.
Bend the knee, elbow in, eye in the basket, and follow through.
Then let the mind-boggling realization sink in that the world's best free throw shooter is not some famous young millionaire pro, but instead a 71-year-old retired foot doctor named Tom Amberry.
The greatest, that's right. And it's hard to believe.
Imagine, just 2.5 years ago, Dr. Tom Amberry of Long Beach, California, was stuck in a retirement rut. Water the plants.
Vacuum the carpet, you know, how many times a day can you do that?
Then a friend suggested going to a local gym to shoot a few free throws, even though Dr. Tom hadn't touched a basketball in 35 years. So he bought books on the subject. He studied videotapes. Finally, after a year of struggle, he discovered the key.
Focus and concentration.
By tuning out the world, this grandfather of 8 turned into the world's all-time free throw champion. We know. We watched as he went through his daily 2-hour, 500-shot workout.
And, well, I know it sounds rude and all, standing here in the presence of greatness, but this is starting to get very, very boring.
Oh, it is. It's really boring.
Hats off, then, to the brave volunteers who stayed with this senior Olympic champion to verify his 1993 world record total of
2,750. Without a miss.
2,750. The NBA record is 97. And to think Dr. Tom only stopped his streak because after 12 hours, they kicked him out of the gym.
I could have made more, a lot more.
We'll take his word for it. Mike Leonard, NBC News, Long Beach, California.
Okay, 2,700. Let's see if we can learn something from him. 2,700. 2,750 consecutive, and he only stopped because they closed the gym. Okay, that's amazing. 2,750. Anyway, this has been verified several times by several people. So let's see if we can learn from him. And here's his book, Free Throw. I got from it two main things. One, which we've all known, practice, practice, practice. Apparently he was doing 500 a day for who knows how long. But practice, practice, practice. And then it's an inside job. And more specifically, this is the way he put it in his book. When I talk about controlling your mind, the inside job of the mind, what I'm really saying is you can't let it get in your way. You have to keep it busy, or better yet, keep it clear while the body does what it's been trained to do. The job then is to use your mind, to empty your mind for a brief period of time just before and while you are shooting a free throw. Now, in our case, it's very, very similar. You have to keep it busy. Well, that's what the protocol and the ideogram IAB process is all about. Tom McNair says that over and over. And the CRV people say the same thing. Stay in protocol. Keep your intellectual ego self busy, making sure you stay in protocol. Okay? And then while you're doing your shooting, that's the equivalent of doing an RV session. And you do it where you're getting the information from the deepest part of yourself. You're not using your ego. You're not using your intellect. You just simply do it in a rather empty, the intellectual mind sense. So that was the way he put it. Now, others, Zen, the art of motorcycle maintenance, the inner game of tennis, and there'll be plenty other books on this, say very much of the same thing. What stands in your way is that you have a much too willful will. You think that what you do, not do yourself, does not happen. You think what you do not do yourself, and here what he means is the intellectual self, does not happen. Well, of course, we know that's wrong. You must learn to wait properly by letting go of yourself, leaving yourself and everything yours behind. You so decisively leaving yourself and everything yours behind you so decisively that nothing more is left of you but a purposeless tension. Purposeless tension. So we're now talking about the remote viewing session. You're no longer using this positive feedback approach. You need to be concerned about anything. And you just do it and you leave your ego self behind. Okay, one more slide. All of this is designed to, to couple with making the remote viewing session better. That's what the positive feedback approach is about. But also these ideas are hopefully going to enhance that as well. So here's the summary, which was connected to sword fighting as well as archery. The more he, in our case, the remote viewer, tries to make the brilliance of his sword play dependence on his own reflection, right? Ego, on the conscious, intellectual, ego conscious utilization of his skill, on his fighting experience and tactics, the more he inhibits the free, and I love this, working of the heart. So not only bringing in the deepest inner you, but the heart, of course, is part of that. So inhibits the free working of the heart. What is to be done? How does skill become spiritual? And how does sovereign control of technique turn into master swordplay? Only so we are informed by the pupil becoming, again, purposeless and egoless. He must be taught to be detached not only from his opponent, and here maybe it would be the D word, not only detached from his opponent, but from himself. He must pass through the stage he is still at and leave it behind him for good, even at the risk of irretrievable failure. Does not this sound as nonsensical as the demand that the archer should hit without taking aim, that he should completely lose sight of the goal and his intention to hit it? Now, all of this sounds so counterintuitive to the ego intellectual self, and yet this is universally given in all of the books which I refer to. It's worth remembering that the master swordsmanship, whose essence to go on describes, has vindicated itself in 1,000 contests, and that's true of the inner game of tennis and all the other inner games. Okay, so in my mind, this is the deep inner trust in your higher self, in your quiet relationship with God. And it is all of this coming together, and I'm hoping the positive feedback approach of never having to deal with displacements will make all of this come together, and it will certainly lead to less emotional stress, but I think it will also lead to higher hit rates, which will eventually lead us to getting more precog pros. So with that, I'm done with this first segment. And are there any questions, comments? Does this make sense? No sense?
Hey, Marty.
Mm-hmm.
It's Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi there. Yeah, thank you for holding this, and hi to everyone. I came in just a few minutes late, and so I missed your very interesting suggestion about not looking at the correct feedback photo. Even well, why wouldn't we look at the correct feedback photo even if we haven't if we have a miss?
Well, because that's where you get the emotional distress. That's where you find out it's a D word. I don't even, I don't want to enhance this whole idea of what the D word is. The whole idea here is to play it down completely. So if you only look at the feedback when you have a hit, notice that the whole idea of the ARV is having a successful hit. In fact, when I go through and I review ARV, you're going to see I use the word successful ARV. Well, what is a successful ARV prediction? It's when you have a hit, and that's the only time you do your feedback session. If it's a non-hit, you go on with your day and you basically treat it as a pass.
Well, if the goal of ARV is to be tuning it into your feedback photo, how is that going to work then? I mean, I understand not everyone tasks themselves. So then are you tasking yourself just to tune into the photo attached to the winning outcome and you're not trying to see your own feedback? Like what are you directing your attention to then?
Describing and sketching. Well, that's interesting. You're describing and sketching. No, you're still describing and sketching your feedback target, but sometimes you miss. I know you know about, in fact, John, I don't know if he's still here. Yeah, John Knowles is still here. The idea of doing a uni-target where there's only one target, and then you describe and sketch that target. And if you don't do a good job of that, you get no feedback. This is analogous to that. So your goal is to describe and sketch the feedback target, but you're only going to see the feedback target if it's a hit. Now, it's possible that we can redefine the queuing, but I think it works because we're looking for a successful hit. If it's not successful, you just don't get any feedback. That's all. And everybody who is doing this positive feedback will know that. But I do understand. I do understand what you're saying, Deborah. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. This is designed to reduce the stress by not ever having to deal with the D word and D feedback.
Okay, interesting. And I could see cueing yourself both ways, because like the Muellers who did the ARV study, I don't know if you saw the German couple who they pretty much showed that feedback didn't matter, so that sometimes their participants didn't even get feedback like half the time. So in that case, they must have been cued not to the feedback, but just to the photo attached to the outcome. So I could see kind of trying both to see which might work, if it even matters to have both. Maybe it, it's just I'm just doing this, So that's a third option to just of where you're directing your attention. But interesting.
Yeah, I do know that study, and it was interesting. And we know from other studies that you don't absolutely need feedback, but we used to say feedback helped. However,
Right.
we know for sure that D feedback hurts. Okay, Deborah, thank you. John, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. Yeah, I've been reviewing a lot of our one ARV work that we did over 10 years ago. And as you presented this positive feedback, I was trying to think, well, did we ever do this before? And I don't think we did. I think this is something we've never tried, and it's certainly important, I think, to give it a try and see if it will improve the feedback rates. One thing we did do, of course, when we had a hit, was to sort of stress your feedback, enjoyment when you had a hit. But this is, as we could call it, unitary feedback. It's only one feedback in only certain conditions. So yeah, I think it's new, and I think it's worth trying.
Good, thank you. Other comments? And I hope the only way we'll know whether it's better is if a lot of people try it and they notice that their hit rates are going up. And I say for sure they're going to notice their emotional selves in doing this will be better, because they won't ever have to see and interact with a displaced target again. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, good.
Marty.
Yep, sure, go ahead.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
We did about 10 years of formal Zen practice at two temples. And it looks like with the Zen and the Art of Archery and the other stuff you posted, looking to develop equanimity. And the Japanese do a lot of meditation. And it's almost a given with the samurais and the archers and all that stuff. What people might want to try, and it doesn't matter particularly what type of meditation you do, but start working on a formal meditation practice every day. And especially get a teacher if you can. I know with the pandemic that might be difficult, but there's some good resources out there on YouTube and different websites.
That's an excellent suggestion, and it's been made over and over again. It turns out the best viewers all seem to do meditation of one form or another. And Stefan Schwartz has given a great talk on that, and he even provided some, I think they were actually, well, they might have only been voice, but he provided some information on what he, in fact, and his wife do in terms of meditating every night. So, and yes, there is a lot of information out there, and I totally support what you said. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Marshall, I see you have your hand up. Why don't you turn your mic on and go? Maybe I can turn it on for you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I put the comment, my question there as well. So I'm of the ilk of being happy that I can see clearly one of the two targets. However, my goal is to be seeing the feedback target, and I've shared several times on the group chat the same. I'd never heard of just using a singular target, and that would seem to be very good for me. So what that would mean is if I see the target, that equals yes or no based on the administrator. And if I don't see the picture, that equals no. So I would only be looking for one target.
Correct. In terms of yes or no, it could be either way. But in terms of seeing the target, you would only do that if you got a hit. And the fact that you are feeling good when you get a good match to the other one, I really want to discourage that, because, you know, you get too happy when it's indeed a miss. And I don't want you happy when it's a miss. You don't want to be happy when it's a miss. You only want to be happy when you get hits. So you can get up to the 70, 75, 80% hit rate.
Exactly. So that, to reiterate my point, it would seem for my personality type, perhaps, that if there was only a singular target, then I wouldn't be certain, I wouldn't have the possibility to see the wrong target. And then if I saw the target, it's yes or no. And if I didn't see the target, it's the opposite. Is there a way to set up a protocol where it's just a singular target?
Well, that's what I believe we've done here. The only target that is permitted to see is the successful, let's call it the hit target. Now, someone like you who is doing self-analysis, when you analyze, you will see both targets. I think you might very well want to search for somebody to work with who will do your analysis for you. And I always recommend that when you find that person, they analyze yours and you analyze theirs. And that also makes it more fun because you're working with the real person. But you could train yourself to see both and just not get emotionally involved, even though you've seen both. And if you happen to give a high score to one, so what? You wait until you know what the outcome is. And if it's a hit, only then do you do feedback.
All right, I understand. I was just wondering if instead of using two targets, we use a singular target.
Well, John Knowles has done that, but that's not the way we is set up, and I'm just not going to do it that way. But the way to have only a singular target where you'll never see or even know that there are two is to get an independent analyst working with you. And then literally there's only one target, the hit target.
Right. Right.
Marty, can I comment on that, or?
Yeah,
would you rather
please.
not? For some time I've been promoting the idea of strict unitary ARV, just one target, because we tried other forms of one target or unitary, what we called one ARV. That was APP under Marty, 10 years ago. But we would have two separate groups. This is in my video on strict unitary ARV, which is on Facebook. So I think there are still ways to go with one target. Emotions is perhaps the soundest way to do that, and we did extensive experiments with that, and it's mentioned in articles in 8 Martinis and in that video that I mentioned. But recently I did try one photo, just have one photo, and Daz has been trying this too. And he had some questions about whether the viewers were actually just going to his mind. And I tried it with one viewer, and she did amazingly well on a target she will never see. So at that point, having spent many years looking at two targets, I'm drawing a quick conclusion about single photo ARV. I don't think it's going to work. But there are possible ways around it. Daz and I talked a little bit about that, so we'll explore that some more. So those are different forms of unitary ARV where you just have literally just one target.
And I'll maintain that this form here is really another variation of that, because if you have an independent analyst, there literally is only one target. But I'm glad that you've acknowledged that one way or another, a person who never sees the other target, and Daz said it right, has to be getting it somehow from his mind. And the example you gave, it got it from your mind. But I'll go one step further. Got it from your mind down in this UCC, this spiritual place where everything comes and everything is shared, right? We are one. Everything is shared down there. And that's where they really got it from.
Well, that's shorthand. We don't know for sure, but I'll acknowledge that's certainly a possibility. I was just using shorthand about telepathy. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And but the fact that you validated that just shows that this D word just works, and we've tried all these other approaches and it's out there. And I think this is a way where you have both the emotional benefit of this approach and you never have to see a D again. Any other comments? I mean, I really do believe this is important. I hope as many of you as possible will work with it, and then we'll know if it's an improvement or not. But as I say, it's definitely going to be an emotional improvement.
Marty, I have a question about your protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify, so you know that you're not going to look at it when you had a miss, because the miss would have meant that you had a high enough score for a prediction.
Let's call that a non-hit, because it could be a pass. You will not look at it, but all you will know is that it was not a hit.
Okay, so you only ever look at it if it was a hit.
Yeah, and you get real happy and you bring in good positive stuff into your life, and otherwise you just move on in a rather neutral way, as if it were a pass.
Okay, and then the other thing, I wrote this in the chat, but just a recommendation, I really suggest don't call the judging photos targets. Think of those as something totally separate from targets. There's only the one target, which is the actualized photo. And I think if people, it helped me to make that switch in my mind and never refer to them as, when those things are different than the target.
I agree. We call them possible targets and emphasize the possible, but if there was other words for the same thing, like we could just call them two photo sites, or something like that. But I understand your point. Okay, let's move on to ARV for newbies and veterans, old bees. So let's look at it, how it goes. And I think there are probably, I see some names here I've never seen before. So I think there are a few people who are brand new, but even the old bees, it's worth seeing this. And I'll put the positive feedback approach in this context. So first, we're looking at this in linear time. And you start with what is a normal remote viewing session. And the tasking is describe and or sketch your feedback target. That is indeed the tasking. And this is when you remote view the target and you create your transcript for the one and only target that you will see and experience during the feedback session. Now that's classical. What I'm showing you here is the classical way. And in the classical way, you would always see a feedback target. So you will see it here, and you get your transcript, and that's sort of cool. But how do you turn this into an application with something like financials or sports betting? Well, the way you do this is you have an analyst in between here, and it can be a self or an independent analyst. And for financials, we use binary ARV. Others and us have done multiple, but right now let's just stay focused on binary. I believe that actually is the best. So in binary, we would want to predict up or not up, and that would be down. This might be yes or no, but it's binary. So how do you make this? Here again, we're using this idea of two possible targets. And one possible target is associated with up. The other possible target is associated with, guess what? Down. Now, in the classical approach, the actual target shown during this feedback session will always be associated with what actually happens, up or down. So that's the classical ARV approach. Okay, so two choices, and you would see the target associated with what actually happens, the up or down. And in between the analysis, you know, if you get a strong and many, because usually we have many people doing this, ups, well, then it would make sense to put in an investment in the up direction in here, and the outcome would come in here. And so then you would tell people what the outcome is, and you would show the appropriate feedback. And we're going to be doing this in craps, except what changes now? With this positive feedback protocol, you're only going to get feedback if, in fact, it's a hit. Now, nobody yet is 100%. Most people are less than that. So usually we get some predictions on one, call them sides, up or down, some on the other side. When we do this, only the side, the up or down, or the yes or no, which is the hit side, we are only going to have those people do their feedback session. The other people will just assume they have a pass and move on. Okay, so that's the big difference. Only for the hit feedback target in this PFB, positive feedback approach. Now, whatever the viewers in charge here, no matter what you're doing, we always recommend wager wisely, wager a small amount of your investment pot, your bankroll. And with this comes the whole idea of having confidence that you do have a good enough edge that over the long term you are going to win, and so you can get rich slowly. I think that attitude is just a really good one. You're not doing this, just for the money. You're doing this for the satisfaction, to get in touch with your consciousness. hopefully to do some good with the money that you get, teach other people about this, ultimately teach society about all this. Okay. Another way, and I've been showing this for years, is that precog begins with the feedback session. But I've always used this word: successful, purposeful precognition begins with your feedback session, right? It starts with the remote viewing session. The feedback is a photo site. Before I even go into what the photo site is, I want to remind you, oops, this used to come up on top. Notice for successful, it's only successful if you've got a hit. And that's what this PFB approach does. You will be successful when you get a hit, and that's when you will see your feedback target, because it is the successful one. It is the hit one. So it's sort of interesting. I've been showing this for a very long time, but it now comes all together with this PFB approach, because again, you'll only get your feedback picture if your prediction was a successful one, which means it was a hit. Now, for the newbies, our feedback targets are what we call photo sites. And they're basically photographed site locations at the specific time the photo was taken. So we want you to describe that site at the time the photograph was taken, not a year earlier, not a year later. It's what the photograph which is available to you, because that's what you're going to see if you're successful. Consciousness is expected to gather information from the target photo. You know, it gets colors, shapes, but it can get a lot more than that. You know, if there's an action scene, it could know about that, etc. And you can optionally actually move. A lot of people, because they're doing other kinds of remote viewing, like to actually move to the site at the time the photo was taken. But in any case, you need to describe and or sketch what can be obviously verified from the photo. I don't care what's 100 yards away from the photo, because I can't have the analyst use that. Now, one of the things which is very important, and what remote viewers get, is a first impression gestalt. And I'll have more to say about that. But if you were to just quickly glance at a photo, you will pick up the big picture information, gestalt information about it. But you also, and that can come in any forms that your nervous system can communicate with you. But in addition, remember that you can get information which are visual, sound, smell, taste, tactile sensations, emotions, even ideas about what's there, things like motion, actually even new inventions, something you haven't seen before. Oh, that's interesting. But ideas can come up, etc. Anything that can be communicated via your consciousness into your conscious mind. Now, here's an example which I'm showing. You look at this, and there are obviously sounds associated here. You get all the colors. You get the geometry here, even the lines, as well as the pins, as well as the circle, all the colors. But notice what's not here. And this has to do with a relatively new protocol we call HAG, which is harsh analysis with gestalts. Notice there are no people here, okay? And so we have a scoring system now, which you'll see shortly. And at best, you would give, in this case with people, if people were in the transcript, you would give it a half credit for the word person or something like that. Hey, maybe it was a machine that threw the ball so they could take a photograph of it. But anyway, they're not here, and that's what we mean by harsh. We really want things to be pretty much there, but you give yourself some leeway. Okay, now your hit feedback target, and this is again successful. So you'll only see the hits. Practice, 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 like a doctor or a shaman. Hey, don't you hope your doctor is always learning, staying up with new things, learning from experience from his own practice? And that's just what shamans do. You're certainly not going to be stagnant. And again, successful. Now, the primary benefit of ARV and applying precognition, and this is so important because it benefits your whole life, is creating a strong working relationship with your subconscious mind, your higher self, the matrix, the UCC, God, or whatever you want to call these non-physical aspects of you and the universe. Okay, before we do a prediction, any questions on the basic protocol, including the PFB? Okay. Yeah, I'm just now looking in the chat box. And the meditators, that's exactly what it's believed. The people who meditate learn how to get very quiet, and they do indeed get closer to their higher selves. And in fact, at some level, that's the purpose of doing that, is to set aside the intellectual ego, normal life self, and get deep down to what the real source of you is. So thank you for that comment. Okay, let's go into the new prediction. We're going to be doing craps, and I'll be telling you more about that right before we do it. But we will be, and craps happens to be a pretty complicated game. However, when you simply use the pass line or the don't pass, what they call bar here, and I'll explain that, it's actually very simple. And that's what we'll be doing. Now, some of you, if you are brand new, I would like to register you in the workshop webinar group. In fact, some people who've been registered before have already put in predictions, which they did before here. I'm going to give you time to do them now, but this will give you an opportunity to do it before if you're brand new and not already in this group. So put your email address in here in the chat box if you're brand new, and I will register you here. Very good. So let me go to this spot. Okay. And as add members, as always, they change things, but this one is different. Add members to the group directly. Okay. So let me do Natasha. And they want me to separate this. And then Joe. And welcome. Oops. Did I get to Joe? No. Yeah. Welcome to you. I am so happy you're joining us here. Whatever. Krista, Natasha, and yes, thank you. And there's, well, I guess I can put them both in, but you'll get emails from both. Or do you want me just to put in the first one, Alan? Well, I just don't know. But here, give me your email address and I'll put it in. And if you're there already, they'll tell us. So Rue, just give me your email address. And Alan, I've only put in your first one. Just, there you go. Okay. Okay, Kathy, you've got it. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay. Very good. So let's just take these. I can add more. Add members directly. And let's see what it does. An error occurs. Existing member. Okay, so it looked like Joe, you were there, Natasha, and I've seen this before. I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing here, but it's saying one person has turned off the settings to be added directly to groups. In other words, you don't want people to be adding you to groups. So what you're going to have to do is turn that setting off, or you can go to the website. And I think, in fact, let me put this in the chat box. I think if you go here, there ought to be a way that you can add yourself directly or request to be added. So the rest of you should have gotten an email saying you are now members. Okay, here's another one. I think Grace we put in last. Okay, and let me add you here. Okay, well, these are already in. Cancel. And then I need to do this again. Add members. Add members. Okay. Anybody else? No, so that should do it. Okay. Very good. So now, the people who are already members, and then some of you have already predicted and made some predictions, all of them, and now the rest of you will get for the next month, I do these the first Wednesday of the month, we'll get a tasking like this. Everything is done through emails and everything is saved on our server. So this was the email for today. And this is a yes/no question, binary, but still yes/no. Will the craps pass line win? And the yes/no is randomly exchanged between photosite A and photosite B, and the computer does that. And I just repeated, will a pass line miss here? And here's the date. That time is sort of a default, but it's today. And then in the email, you just simply click here. Now I'm going to click here just to show you what happens. This is the active one. And then you would put in your email. But for those of you who are brand new, you don't have that. So let me put this in the taskbar. And if any of you, if you click there, up will come this screen. And then each of you will be getting your own possible targets, your own photosite pairs. So that's why you need to put in your own email. Excuse me. Okay. Notice the webinar workshop is in fact highlighted to make it a little easier. And then you click here and up comes the following, where you now have, and your coordinate, of course, each of your coordinates will be different. So at this point, each of you should have your own coordinate. And leave this page up there because we will be coming back to it. But at this point, let me go back to here. So this is the page you have where you put in your emails, and you have your email now up there with your coordinate. Now, if there's nothing in the chat box or no questions, I'm going to assume that each of you now are in the position to basically do an RV session. And if you're an experienced one, you can start, because the next few are going to be for the newbies. And I'm going to lead you into this. So on a sheet of paper, your coordinate, you should write here. A lot of people write it on the top left or put in the center. Put your name, date, time, and put the group. Put workshop, webinar, webinar, workshop. All of these are preliminaries on the top. Some people draw a line, some people don't, but it's rather clear that this is all preliminary. So you put that on a sheet of paper. And you saw one example where you wrote the coordinate, and then either an ideogram or a pictogram comes up. I'll have a little bit more to say about that, but it really is good to start with a little kind of let your body draw the sketch, sort of like a doodle. You know, you draw it in just a second or two. And then you respond to it. And then universally on the right, because we're all trying to learn to differentiate between information which comes from the subconscious, from the higher self, from whatever, versus the intellect. If you think it's coming from the intellect, and usually that's too high, you know, you might get orange and you might get round, and then your mind jumps in and says, oh, basketball, it's trying to help. But then you put basketball over here, and that's usually called an AOL. I call it trash, because usually it's wrong, but not always. But once you write it down, that lets you go back and again go back and be open to getting information from your SEB. Perhaps write the coordinate again. In fact, here is the example that uses the approach for your newbies. Even if it's your first time, I recommend doing it. You've got your coordinate here. Under here is the name and the date and the group name. But notice here's an ideogram, and then the AB. The A is actually called feeling motion of how the ideogram, when you did it, feels. It's sort of funny, but there's a feeling motion that just associated with that on the piece of paper. This might have come up very fast. Here it says up and over, down and over. But somehow then B is more like something objective comes to mind, the next level, but it might be like in a gestalt, active, structure. This shape led to structure. And then you do another ideogram, and you never know what you're going to get. It's sort of wonderful. but then you describe the feeling motion of it, down, backward, scratchy, over, down. This is more than many people do. In fact, later I'm going to show you one that Tom did, and I think he only did 2. And then you start getting after this B, other words start coming in. They're higher level words. You know, here it was green, open, misty. And then at some point you might very well get images. And for me, I don't see images, and yet I was moved to draw, I guess I gave away, this happened to be one of my transcripts, a person and a ship, a vehicle of some sort. You know, water, green, murky. So there's a lot of information here that goes along with what the analyst is going to do. Now, having said all that, let's get ready to start. The cool down is very important. Joe McMonagle says getting to this deep, quiet space, he thought it's like 75% of the process. And this is where the meditation might help get you into that a little bit faster and get rid of your day-to-day stuff. Other people, like Tom, just rather quietly might bow their head and do a silent prayer and ask for information about the correct hit successful target, and then do it right away. So the viewer is in charge. What I'm about to put up is a 10-minute Monroe Institute binaural beats. They kind of use that for relaxing. And you can use like a breath meditation to get rid of the day-to-day stuff. Just begin focusing on your breath. And there'll be a quiet reminder just to tell you early on. And then your ego intellect, its only job is to stay and write stuff down and stay within whatever your protocol is. If you're brand new, just basically to put what comes up from your sub down on your transcript. And there'll be a narrator that'll come in 2 minutes, and I'll remind you when there's a minute left. So I'm going to start this now, and we'll get together in 10 minutes.
First, let go of your physical senses, your body, and turn inward.
have about a minute left. Okay, come on back to your normal waking state. You might stretch a little. Let's close that. Let me go. Okay, so this is what we just did. 10 minutes for ARV is generally more than enough. Some people like to do more. Some people like to do less. One of the nice things about being on a webinar is if you finish early, you go relax, have a snack, do whatever you want to do. But now we should hopefully all be together, and let's move on. So you have your transcript in front of you. The next thing is to do analysis. And the analysis is the matching of your transcript with the two possible targets. One will be a yes, one will be a no, randomly chosen by the computer. And you go back to the page where you got your coordinate, and here is where you need to, in one way or another, a lot of people use their smartphones and send it to their computer, or from their smartphones, you can actually upload it, but you have to browse your computer for your transcript and get it into this box. Yeah, I'm trying to, well, here, I guess I can show you from mine. So what you do is click this choose file, and one way or another, I usually put it in documents. Sometimes you put it on your main screen. You need to get a copy of your transcript so you can upload it. Once you do that, then when this is filled in, then you will be able to click submit, and the two possible photos will come up. So hopefully you're doing that now. Any questions about that? Hector, just because I don't want to stop now, you asked me to add you. Send me an email and I will do that. Okay, so you guys are doing that now, and I'm going to assume that you're sort of in that process. So let's talk about what's involved with the analysis. You have your transcript, and the first thing you need to do, and this was one from Tom, and you can see the approach, again, the coordinate. This would be an ideogram. He only had two. but then he does his A and B. But notice these circled numbers here. You need to number each individual element, and the ideogram is one of the elements. So, and then the A and B, and then he got additional words right away, and he numbered each one of them, and then the next ideogram. And the reason for that is originally there was a form like this. See, the idea, of course, is straightforward, but don't let this upset you because this whole approach is automated. But the idea is you match each of the numbers that you've marked here. Okay, here there was 1 through like 27. And some of them are going to match photosite A. You go through photosite A and you match them all. Some will match photosite B. And then there's this first impression gestalt. It's right here. And again, remember, this is all automated. But the key is the FIG amounts to half of the scoring system. We're still using a 0 to 7 TARG scoring system, but the FIG amounts to half of it. And then the ratio between the total number of things which are marked, in this case, there were 24. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it has an A or a B next to it, that adds up, and that was the 24. Notice there's some big A's and some little a's. The little a's count as half a point. Now, let me give you an idea, first of all, of what a FIG is, and then you'll quickly see how this is all automated. Again, the people who have been around are already starting to do it, so this is really for the newbies. What is a FIG? A first impression gestalt. If you just to quickly look at something, if they flashed it for a fraction of a second, and you've actually done this down to milliseconds, you do get an impression. You get sort of an overall impression. And the basic things are like FIGs. Water, could be other kind of fluid, land, space, air, the big picture kind of gestalt things, motion, energy, man-made, structure, natural, could be vegetation, but it could be other kinds of natural, biological, alive, people, animals, stuff like that will come up to you, and that would be in the category of FIGs. Sometimes there's a dominating color, and sometimes other things come up. So, you know, if this were a real person, you would certainly get structure, you get black, you get a person, you'd get a liquid potentially in your session, and you would mark all that. Now, here's where, when you do upload your transcript, what you will see as soon as you click the submit is you will see photosite A, which is one of the possible targets. And under that is where all the mathematics done. You've numbered your system from 1 to as many elements as there are. And when you click this, you'll have the choice of a big A, a little a, or you leave it blank. And so if you go down and, oh, number 3 is really a good match, you would click on that and you'd be able to put in a big A or a little a. And you do that for all of these, and then you need to give a FIG, and a FIG is always a number between 0 and 1, and that's what your choices are here. And then you do the same thing for photosite B. Okay, so you click on wherever the matches are, and remember, it's your personal transcript that you've numbered against your personal possible photosites for A and B. But then under B, there's this automatic HAG, and it does the arithmetic for you. So here is an example. And again, the FIGs for A, a FIG for B that you put in, notice that basically is half between 0 and 1. This ratio is always between 0 and 1. and then you multiply by 3.5. So you'll always get a number between 0 and 7. And in this example, Fig A was 0.2, Fig B was 0.8. The confidence ranking between 0 and 7 was 1.87 and 5.37. And then you need to round these numbers up, because what you end off putting in is below your photo site A, photo site B, and judging. You will see a screen just like this with your two pictures, so you can go back and check things and modify things if you want to. And then the drop-down menu here will have CR choices, and you will just round your numbers up. So this would just be a 2, and this would be a 5.5. And you'll see the choices here when you click. Do put in notes, because these notes are for you. All of this goes to the server, and it can assist you because it's all saved. So after you do 10 or 15 of these, you might see patterns, for example. And this is the 0 to 7 TAR confidence scale. And he put words to these things, but we have 3.5 as being wagerable. 3 is right on the margin. You think you did have some psychic connection, okay, because you've got a fair number of correct, but also a fair number of incorrect, maybe like 50-50, but enough that you think you make contact. Below that, it's random or even less. When you see a CR of 4, and the HAG automatic one goes along with this, we've tested this pretty much. When you get the CR of 4, you now say, no, okay, I feel like I've got a pretty good match here. A 5 is very good. In each one of these, you're getting less and less incorrect information. But a 5 is unambiguous, unique matchable elements, is the way Russ put it. You'll see when you get a 5 that probably works. If it doesn't, you can change what you put in, because 5s are really good. 6 and 7 start getting into this naming, analytical overlay information, which we said, often is wrong, but sometimes when it's right, that'll help bring your score up because you give yourself credit for that. So let's look at something which I have access to as a general manager, but I'm not going to look at it with as much, let me see here, detail as I used to. Where is it? Member list, second page. Looks like I might have written over it. So let me just do it again. What you're now seeing is something you never need to worry about, but this is how a general manager sets out the tasking, group prediction, and then the outcome. And so right now what I want to look at is the group prediction for webinar workshop. That's us. And let me just make sure. Yep. Notice the tasking will craps, pass line, win. So again, all of this is on the server. Now, so I can see a lot of you, and some came from before, are indeed putting in predictions. I used to look at some of the high ones now, but I'm not going to do that, because one of the things you can see, one of the things you can see is that here's a yes prediction. Notice that's a pass, but here's a no prediction. Here's another yes prediction with a 6. Here's a pass prediction. Here's a no prediction. as a group manager, I will make a prediction before we go do the craps, because I'm going to be actually placing a wager, and I'll do it based on the sum of all of this. And so let's just, but I don't want to look at any of them because it may be a D. Some of these are going to be non-hits. I mean, here's a yes. Here's another yes, but here's a no, and here's a no. So right now we have 2 yeses and 2 nos. I'm going to update this because I know some of you are still doing your analysis. Analysis turns out to be, I don't know how to put it, one of, if not the most important parts of the whole process. You would think the remote viewing would, and I'm not underplaying that, of course. But if you think about it, it's the analyst looking at the RV transcript and the 2 possible photo sites, one of which will be a target, the hit target, the real target. That's the one who is ultimately making the predictive choice. And what you're seeing here is relatively common. And that is, let's see if there's been any changes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6 people predicting. And it looks like still 2 no's and 2 yeses. Okay, so I'll wait just a little bit longer. Are any of you still in analysis? And I know some of you just decide not to. It looks like Deborah gave me her transcript, but I'm not going to analyze it. If someone wants to analyze hers, they can. Okay, Marshall, you got, so this must be you. Yep. You certainly get these 6 out of 7s, but I'm not going to look at it unless it turns out to be what actually happens. And okay, so you happen to predict a yes. Here's another one that predicted a yes at the level of 4.5. Here's a no of 3.5. And here's another no at 3.5. So as a group manager, I would go with yes, but let me just see. Is anybody else still doing a prediction? Okay, Rue, you still are. Okay, we'll wait for you, Rue. Deborah, I don't know if you're still here, but each one is unique. So
Yeah, that's okay. My call had dropped, so I didn't understand that. I came in late.
okay, are you in our system as a prediction person?
You know, it's been years because I was having other people judge for me. So
Right, which I actually recommend. Okay, you just won't submit one, that's all.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Rue, you coming along? And if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask them. Anybody, if they have any questions, it's a good time to
Hey,
ask it.
Marty, it's Krista here.
Okay, hi.
Hi. I sometimes just play with some remote viewing during a week. I make little envelopes with pictures in, and I've got lots of them, and I just grab one,
Right.
and then I just practice, to see, because I take pictures from lots of books, and I ask my husband, to put them in envelopes, so I don't know.
Sure.
Just magazines, and normally I would say 60% of the time I get something right. I'm closer to the target than not, and I'm a very positive person. I like that positive feedback. I like, try and try again, like you spoke today. But the oddest thing happened now. When I did my remote viewing this evening, I was so way off target, it was unbelievable.
Are you just using one photo or two?
And when I practice, I just use one. So maybe I should use two going forward?
No. ARV is different. What you're doing is great setup for that. And when you're way off in a way that's a kind of a D, if you know what I mean, you went someplace else.
Yeah.
And what you might try is not have your husband show you anything then.
Okay.
Just as a suggestion, and see if that raises your 60% or so to 70%.
Yeah. So he can cut out a couple of pictures, put them in the envelopes. I see the envelopes, I just grab an envelope. Because all the envelopes look the same and they just have a random number on them.
Yeah. And you're doing just classical remote viewing with one target, and that's great. It's just not ARV. And if you want to do two, where you make a choice, then join one of our groups.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is the next step. I do think so. Okay.
The benefit of a separate judge, since no matter what. Well, I'm now responding to Marshall, who said, I don't really understand the benefit of a separate judge or analyst, since no matter what, I will know the picture. No, you will not know the picture if it's a miss. You will only know the picture if it's a hit. Make sure you understand that. That's the major difference in this positive feedback approach, Marshall. Period. With what you did now, you see them both. But if you had an analyst do that and he judged it just like you did, you wouldn't know that. So make sure you understand that. Right. If you had an independent person do it, you wouldn't know that you just gave yourself a 6 out of 7. He would have done it. He would have put it in the system because you would have sent him the transcript and he would have gone in as an analyst using your email address. And then he would have done just what you did, and presumably he would have ranked it the same way. Okay, let's see how Rue is doing here. I don't want to wait too long. Okay, Rue, are you almost done? You know what? While you're doing that, let me open up the craps thing. It times out if I wait too long. Okay, very good, Rue. In fact, let's take a look at that, and then I can make a formal prediction. Notice when you did it, you didn't even know, but you did see when you were done whether or not it was yes, no. There you are. And you gave a yes with a 5 and a 0. So we have 1, 2, 3 yeses, 2 no's. Okay, so it makes sense for a group prediction to be yes. So I'm going to put that in here. Webinar workshop. We had 3 yes, 2 no, And the yeses, notice this was the first time we got to see which was yes and which was no. Yes is side 2. We call these things sides because sometimes this is up and down. So it's sort of general for the 2 choices. So side 2 is yes. Side 2 is yes. Webinar, I am predicting that. So all of you should have gotten an email, which I'm showing here. And it says group prediction is yes. And if you remember, the question was prediction side, webinar. Here's the event. Will craps pass line win? So we are now saying the pass line will win. So that's the one I'll play. And let's now see if I can bring that up. To do that, I need to go to 5 Dimes Grand Casino. Okay, so we said do the pass line based on 3-2. Let me put in my password. And we now log in. And we're going to want table games, all. I think I play, yeah. Okay, so this will be the craps. Now let me just go back because I've explained what craps is all about. And I don't think it'll time me out. Okay, so here's craps. We are going to do the pass line. And so maybe that's all I'll explain to you. The no pass line is virtually the opposite except for one thing, which I don't even have to tell you about. Okay, so if 7 or 11 come out first, the player who has a pass line wins. So 7 or 11 comes up, we're going to win whatever I bet. I'm going to bet $5. The second possible outcome of the roll is 2, 3, or 12. Guess what that's called? Those are called craps. If 2, 3, or 12 comes up, we lose immediately. I lose whatever I bet. The third possible outcome are all the other numbers, 4, 5, 6, or 8, 9, or 10. If that happens, the shooter, and it'll be sort of interesting, I'll get to shoot again, rolls the same point number before rolling a 7. Then I would win. But if whatever my point was, if that, well, if a 7 comes up before, I lose. So if I were to get a 5 or a 6 or a 4 or an 8 coming up, then what I'm hoping for is to get that number again before a 7. Okay, it's as simple as that. And it turns out, of course, the game will set that up. So we said to go to the pass line. Oh, wait, let's clear all. There's the clear. I really only want to bet 5. So why isn't the clear working? Well, I worry about that. But I'll put it on the pass line. There's my 6. Oh, I see. Now I can clear everything. Hey, let's go with 6. We had some high numbers. It doesn't really matter. We're really just looking for the outcome. Okay, so I put $6 on the pass line. And I can now roll, and let's see what happens. We got an 11. We won. You see that? Remember, I said if a 7 or 11 comes out on the first roll, we won. It's as simple as that. So that meant it was a yes with respect to the pass line. Okay, I hope everybody understands that. So we're actually done with this, but we got a yes. So the yes is the hit side. So we now know the outcome. I'm actually going to close this. It takes up a fair amount of resources. So I'm going to close that. It also changes things around. I'll close that. Okay. Now, so the other is virtually the opposite. So we just played our craps, and now we're getting into feedback. But before we do that, I want to put out so you all see. Okay, so we did our prediction. Now, as a group manager, I'm going back, and this is what I do with all the groups. You newbies ought to be in financial groups. We have some sports groups, but if you want to become a Precog Pro, you might as well start with financial groups, though you don't have to. But notice I'm doing step 3. Step 1 was the tasking. Step 2 we just did, and now we're going to do step 3. We are webinar workshop. Here's the task. Let's just make sure it's the right one. Yep, 8-5 will craps win. So I have to clip. Remember, I only do this. You don't have to worry about this. What you do is protocol-wise very simple. I spent a lot of time in making that happen. So now I choose the group. And I choose the group again. And notice up here, it says the prediction is side 2, which is yes. Our outcome turned out to be side 2. I could put in, so this was a hit for yes for pass line. Okay, so I'm putting that in. I just always check this. It's amazing. Side 2, yes. Side 2, yes. So hopefully you all understand that because you just watched me do it. I will click this now. All of this is, again, just for the group manager. But you should have gotten an email. I think I get a copy of it here. No. Okay, in fact, let me go to my email just to verify. And you will get very much the same. Okay, so here's my email and my inbox. And here's the feedback email, which will be just like what you got. Notice it says the winning side was yes. So those of you who predicted no, and let's see if I can get back to that screen. Okay, so I had to do the outcome. Oh, I actually do have a lot of that information here in a much less pretty form. So let me go back to the prediction just because it's so much easier there, just to see who went for yes and who went for no. But you see, you should already know that because when you put in your CRs at the end of it, it told you whether you were yes or no. So what I'm doing is just reiterating that. and then we can look. Okay, so we had the 2 no's. One there was Grace. So you do nothing, Grace. You're done. You don't do any feedback whatsoever. And then we have, and let's just do it from the top. And Swiss Remote Viewer doesn't do anything. Here's a yes with a 3.5. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to have time to do all these. Here's a 5, which was good, and here's a 6 out of 7. Very nice. Both of those are good. You know what I would like to do, and I've never done this before. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, I think maybe if we do it quickly enough, we can do this for all 3. So let's do them in order. Shuttery, are you still here? Is the first thing.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. What I would like you to do, so all of us can actually watch, I don't know what's being recorded. Yeah, that, and I've seen this before. Do you see at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's something that says share screen? Put your arrow anywhere in your Zoom stuff, and it'll say share screen. We're all going to be able to watch you do your feedback session, and then I'll do it with the other 2 people as well. Though we'll obviously maybe do it a little quicker than we have to. First of all, do you see the share screen? Because once you click that, take the top left one, which will say basically share what's ever on your main screen. Do you see that or do you not see that?
Oh, I see the screen. Is it?
You see where it says
screen?
share screen? No, yes, yeah. but at the bottom of, there you go, you just did it. Perfect. Okay, so go to your email, which, yeah, there it is. And now do it. Click on your email.
Where do I click?
Right there. That's the only thing that's hot. See how easy it is? Put in your email address. And you're about to see your winning target.
I click?
Yep, click. Oh, so you're one of the newbies. Perfect. Isn't that the one that you gave the highest score to?
Yes.
Okay, well done. And you've got your transcript in front of you. And what you basically do now with your transcript, which if I had done it, I could show the transcript, but that's not that important. What's important is what you do. No, that's okay. What you do on your transcript or on a new sheet of paper is a new session which writes all the stuff which was good and then add a little more and feel really happy. Are you feeling good now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you feel good, and on your transcript, you might, some people like to keep their transcripts like, virgin. Some people will circle the good stuff on there, but I always say add another thing. Like, did you get water?
No.
Okay, so add water on your transcript now, and look at the water and tell yourself, hey, you did great. You got a winning hit here, and next time if there's water around, you might tell me that, pass on water. But you probably got something tall or whatever you got, mark it. And then on the notes below, okay, let's go down a little bit.
Yes.
Summarize how you're feeling, put some of the good stuff down there, and then move on. And notice below that are all the B's, big B's and little B's that you chose. So it's a reminder to you about that. And some people like to print out this whole page if it's it. Some people don't. But the viewer is in charge. So as a newbie, you're now finishing off your first prediction. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do fill this out and take your time, but doesn't take a lot of time. You're already feeling good. Mark what you did well, add a little more, and go on from there.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to go on to the next one now. So you are viewing Simone's screen. Somewhere here, I need to be able to go to a new one. I don't want to close the window. So interesting. And I saw this before. If I exit full screen. Stop participant sharing. Okay. Who is next on that list? There are two more of you. The next one that had a yes. Okay, was Varsity, and then we'll do Marshall. Oh.
Varsity, that's me. It's Matt.
Okay. Oh, there was another yes there. Okay, so Varsity, go ahead. You share the screen, and you do exactly what was done before. Go ahead and do your feedback, and all of us will get to see it. Hey, okay. And look at your transcript and mark the good stuff, rewrite it on another one, including a good sketch that you might have gotten. Did you get a good sketch?
No, I'm not very good at the sketches.
Okay.
But I get the descriptive words.
So you got water?
I got a lot of slick. I got structure and hollow. I got an AOL of a space shuttle landing. Not the shuttle, the splashdown, the old-fashioned rockets coming down.
Oh, okay.
And just comparing everything that I got on 5 pages of just strict CRVs transcripts.
Oh, wow.
It was like, yeah, it wasn't the other one. This is very close.
Excellent. Okay, well done.
Thank you.
And as I say, be sure to fill out the notes and take a copy of this if you'd like for your records to keep with your transcript or not. Again, the viewer is in charge, but you did, obviously you did very well. Okay, so now let's see. I think I counted. We might have had more yeses than I thought. Okay, so now we have Rue. And you gave yourself a 5, Rue. Why don't you do that? Now, do you see where it says share screen on your Zoom active screen?
Rue had to leave.
Oh, okay. Well then, Marshall, let's do you.
All right, ready or not? Here I come. Let's see. So, okay. So, can you all see my screen too?
Not yet. You need to do there. Now you're coming up. There you go.
All right. So, yep. So the two pictures were these two.
No, don't show us two. I don't want to see the other one. Period. Okay, no, I don't even want to see this. Get rid of that.
All right.
Get rid of that. I want you to go. Oh, did you go to the, okay. I really, don't you ever go look at what would have been the D picture had you described it. Had you gone to your email, all that would have come up was the winning one. Now, why didn't you do that?
This was the feedback. This is what I got from the feedback.
You didn't get both. You never would have got.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I wanted to. This is where I gave my my
description
analysis.
of the judging. No,
Yeah.
go to your email because I want you to go through it. So you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, looking at your transcript is interesting. We'll remember that.
All right.
Okay, people metallic, but go to your email.
All right. And okay, here we go.
There you go. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, nice and clean. That's your winning, and you should feel really good at this point. And I saw that you had people, and you look at your transcript, mark all the good stuff, and add a little something. Did you have structure?
I did.
Okay. Well, you gave yourself a 6 out of 7, so you had virtually everything. So that is really good.
The part that I had difficulty with, and there has been discussion in the group chat about this, is when there's strong emotions attached to a picture, as in this one. It's difficult for me to relate to highly charged photographs. And so I got everything except for the fact that this looks like someone falling out of a building or something that got blown up.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me give you a suggestion. Now, some people, empaths, have talked themselves out of it. They say they don't want to get that. If you want that, I mean, like if you wanted a word to come in scary, something emotional like that, put those words how you would describe it now and just tell yourself, hey, it's okay to give me emotional stuff. And next time something emotional comes up, it's okay by me. Just give me a word for it. And that's the way you train yourself. You already have a really good communication, right? 2+ people, that's really good. Wedge, I mean, that was really good. So people, and Marshall, you may be one of them, are able to jump over the self-analysis so they just stick with the right one. And if you want to continue doing that, that's fine. But if you do get some D work, then you might want to find an analyst. But certainly in this case, you jumped over that, having seen them both. And I would just say, well done to you.
Well, actually, I want to thank the group and thank you, Marty. I'm going to begin working with Tony. So Tony and I are going to begin working to judge one another's work.
Okay, excellent. I think that is terrific.
Well, thanks again. Yeah, great.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. So let me get back. Let me take control again from you, and do finish it off and put something in your a box and hit submit, but you've been around enough that you'll do that. So let me share my, oops, I don't want to share Marshall's screen. That's interesting.
Well, let's see. I'm not sharing anymore.
No. Okay, when I do share screen though, funny enough, I'm getting your screen to share.
Well, let
me see what that does. Okay, hold on. Maybe what I need to do is go to where I am on the screen. I never knew I could do that. Okay, wait, I need to get, oh wait, I think it's this one. Hold on. Okay, gallery view. Now let me share. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I had to be the one with the picture. And now what I want to do. Okay, any questions or anything about what we've done so far? Because I'm not going to wrap it up with a few big picture PowerPoints, which actually I think are important. Okay, and let me, before I do that, as you can see, I've already said this, when you have a hit feedback, you know, it's celebrate time. Feel really good, notice your matches, do a quick feedback session, and add a little more, and just feel deeply happy. It's fine for your ego to feel happy, but you also want your subconscious, who is a major player here, to feel happy. And this having M&M is part joke, part not. Ingo Swann always used to give guys M&Ms. You'd throw M&Ms in that. And if anything negative came up, like, gee, I wish I'd done better, forget that, please. Just stay positive. Give it a little love, that sort of thing. And just keep encouraging more hits. And know that what you're doing is really a good thing. You're learning to be in touch with your subconscious. What could be more important than that? Knowing what you're doing is important. Ultimately, we're really a part of educating society, but you're educating yourself. You don't have to be that big picture, but in fact, you're part of a process where that's what, you know, app and APPI are doing. So it really is important. And then know, especially if you're in the Precog Pro world, that it's okay to make money. It really is. Hey, psychics charge for what they do. Become a Precog Pro. Get really good at this so you can earn money from APPI. And have an M&M or a piece of apple pie or whatever you would like. And be happy. Now, if you were a non-hit, nothing to do. No feedback. Enjoy the rest of your day. And you go on. Period. And you had a pass, basically. And respond as if it was a pass. So any questions? Well, yeah, but first I have to finish this and then I'll do the SPY. Okay. Now, whether you're a viewer, analyst, group manager, and some are doing self, some are doing with others, the whole thing here, even though we do this with groups, we do this with partners, it ultimately is a consciousness journey and it's a personal journey. You know, you're paying attention to what your sub provides you. Always be optimistic. Be grateful that you're doing this. How marvelous that you're at the cutting edge of consciousness work. Love it. Enjoy it. The higher powers have given you this consciousness gift. And this is self-actualization, self-realization. I love this guy who's asking somebody else, what's the meaning of life? And our guru here says, I don't know, the computers are down. I get a kick out of that. But it's all about self-responsibility. You're the one who has to build up this inner dialogue with your subconscious deeper self. And I just love this quote here. Our duty as men and women is to proceed as if limits to our ability did not exist. We are collaborators in creation. What you're doing goes down into this UCC, into the matrix, into the spiritual part of reality. And it's all of what you do, all of your now moments are down there. And you're creating that UCC as you're doing this stuff. It's multiple. So this is your deepest I-Psi precog self. And what's interesting is this is you as a remote viewer. This is you as a feedback person doing only your successful feedback now. At least that's what I'm now recommending. And the target information is available to you from your subconscious higher self. and know this at a very deep or high level, and let the target info just flow into your consciousness from these deep parts, and trust that this higher self, deeper self, God, whatever, will permit you and is with you on the journey to reach your precog side consciousness goals. So this is always around the UCC. And now let's see if this works. I've automated this. Ultimately, and I wish all of you, healthy, wealthy, and wise journeys. In this day and age, the greatest wealth is health, but it's okay to have this be money for whatever you feel are good purposes for you, your family, society. Just feel good about it. Make sure you're doing what feels good to you. And then love, wisdom, beauty, and joy are 4 things that came to me in my time with the Monroe Institute. And I wish as much of that as possible for all of us, you and me, society, etc. And with that, I'll thank you all for being here with me. And if there are any final questions or comments, fire away. Well, I can't hear any talking. Okay, I'm seeing nice comments. And yeah, well, thank you. Okay, so with that, I will thank you all for joining me here. As you probably can see, this is a passion of mine that I'm committed to for the very long term, basically forever. And all of you, keep precogging and be healthy.